It's an unbelievable story which made headlines around the world. Last month, GP Thomas Kwan was jailed for 31 years and 5 months for attempting to kill his mum's partner in a row over inheritance.
It is like something out of a movie. Kwan was posing as a community nurse administering a COVID jab when he injected Patrick O'Hara with poison, leading to life-changing injuries.
Well, thankfully, Patrick survived and joins us today to tell us all about his story for the very first time. Good morning,
Good morning,
Patrick.
Good morning.
It's the most incredible story that's so unbelievable. Let's start, first of all, with your relationship with Jenny. How did you meet?
Well, we met, I'd lost my job and everything else, you know, and I'd been at the job about nearly 30 years and everything else. And obviously I had to get money to pay for the mortgage and everything. So my brother, who had worked at Marks and Spencer's, Billy, he got us a job working on the late shift and everything else, you know. And Jenny started the same day as me, you know. And I was working in the back of Marks and Spencer's, and she was doing the shelves when she moved on to the shop floor and everything else on the tills and all that. But now I got a section manager's job of working at the night time, you know, from 5 o'clock to 10. And we just like smiled at each other as we were walking through and talking. And when I got another job, and it was the last week that I got a job, she asked us if I wanted to go out, and I said yes, you know, because I don't know, it was midlife crisis, losing the job, the kudos of losing my job. And the daughters were at university and everything just seemed to be on top of us, you know. And this was like just a thing that happened.
And you were together for a long time.
Well, together for 23 years.
Yeah.
You know?
So you were in a relationship with Jenny. You've been together for a very long time, and she had this son, obviously from a previous relationship. What was your relationship like with Thomas Kwan?
Well, we're really like strangers.
He wasn't really in your lives at all?
No, never, you know. And Jenny, they were strange as well, because it was always about money and different things. Where he wanted his mum to give him more money in different things like that, you know.
So he was constantly on at his mum to give him money.
And when she didn't give him anything, he wouldn't speak to her or anything else, you know.
But he was a GP.
He was a GP. He was at boarding school till he was 14, when he was 14, you know. But I always remember he'd said to his mum had told us that, "Mum, you've sent us to hell here," you know. But
so
boarding school, I didn't think he'd... Then he was at Newcastle University, trained his 5 years as a doctor. Then he was going to... and his last year he was going to leave because he met this older woman, and she seemed to turn his head when Jenny come from Hong Kong and stayed with him and got him over that and everything else, you know. When he had a practice in Sunderland, when he had a major practice.
So he was doing well?
Yeah, he was doing brilliant.
You know, he was affluent,
I knew he's
well-respected in the community.
He invested in properties and different things.
So he was doing all right?
Yeah, he was doing more all right there, Ben. He was doing more all right.
So what was the catalyst for this then? Was it the inheritance? Well,
he thought he should have... Because in China... always was, you only had the one child with the Mao Zedong thing, and then he thought being the eldest, he lived in this country for years, that was it, the eldest son got everything. But when his dad died, the middle son got quite a bit. Right. The poor daughter, she only got 10%, and the rest of you got 45, whatever it was, you know, and he didn't like that, you know. Then he left the ex-husband who had died, left the flat in Hong Kong to Jenny, you know, when she sold it and everything else, you know.
So he was cross about what had happened previously.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he saw you, and I know that she changed her will and you were going to benefit a little bit as well, weren't you?
No, I wasn't going to... The only thing I was going to benefit, if Jenny died, I could still live in the house. Right. And when I died, everything went to him, you know.
So clearly there is an issue with him and what he feels like he's been wronged with his mum and this inheritance from his father and all that sort of stuff.
That must have built up all over the years with him and everything else, you know. Then he asked that would he transfer all her money and he would look after it, but she couldn't trust him, you know, from previous things that he did, you know, which is a bit too long in the short space of time we've got. But what had happened was he kept on ringing her and texting her, and she would come off the phone and she would be upset. And I just says, Jenny, I says, we can't have this all the time. So I says, block him. Yeah. I says, block him. So that lasted for a few months. Then one day he come to the house about 9:30 and I opened the door and it was him. And I says, "Oh, what do you want, Thomas?" He says, I want to see my mum. So I shouted up to Jenny, it's your Thomas, do you want to see him? She said, no. And the next thing, he pushed us through the door and went upstairs. Then there's a couple of minutes they were talking all right, and all of a sudden they started Chinese shouting, and I said to Jenny, I says, do you want him to stay? He says, no, I want you to go. So I says, Thomas, your mum wants you to go, can you leave? So I asked him twice, and I had to say, if you don't go, Thomas, I have to phone the police. And he just shrugged his shoulders, so I phoned the police in front of him. And about 20 minutes later, the police come, took him down the stairs. I always remember this. He said, do you know I'm a GP? So that was going to be a thing. So we took him into the kitchen, then they took me and Jenny into the living room, and the older policeman said, we can charge him for assaulting you, Mr. O'Hara, like stalking you, Jenny, and something else. And we said, oh, no, we don't want him charged because we might lose his licence, his doctor's licence. So we don't want that. And she was just doing him.
So she was protecting him even though he'd stalked into the house?
Yeah. And then he says, oh, we'll just caution him. So that was that.
Yeah, but then it all escalated again
that,
because essentially you received a letter from the NHS.
Yeah, it was on November the 7th. I received a letter from my NHS saying, you've been chosen because, you know...
for a COVID jab.
It was like, you know, there was a lot of stories about pensioners blocking the beds with COVID and cold and everything else. And he says you've been chosen to get your blood tested and other stuff, and to have a COVID booster jab because it'll stop you going into the hospital to block it, you know. So I says, oh, well, that's a good idea. And even his mum says, oh, why wasn't that picked as well? I says, well, I just don't know. I says, you know. Then on January the 4th, I got another letter with NHS heading on it and everything else, looking, and it was signed by Miss Del Patel, I don't know what it was, and saying, oh, I've got, can you make an appointment on January the 22nd to have this checked over and get the COVID booster. So I says, okay, so, what happened? Yeah, so when he sent that, then
but it all seemed legit. Here's the thing, right? It all seemed legitimate at the time. It was working with the news. You were talking to Jenny. At no point did you think there was any suspicion?
No, I thought everything, you know, because the way things were going with COVID and everything else, and I'd always get the flu booster and the COVID and everything.
From the NHS.
And I'd already had that in October.
So he sent you this letter, you've agreed to have this appointment, and then suddenly this nurse turns up at your house.
Yeah. Well, I got a text the night before to say, because what he said was on that letter is, if you can't make that week, any day that week would do, because now I know that he'd put a week's holiday in a few weeks before to make sure that I was there.
He could come and give it to you that week.
You know? So I got a text on the Sunday, and I was expecting 9:30, open the door, there he was, but he was covered. He had because he was bald, he was 6 foot odd, he had like a combat commando hat, woolly hat. He had tinted glasses, yellow, then he had a medical mask on his face.
So he had a mask on as well. So the reality is, I mean, that's a sort of a...
No, that you see that picture there?
Yeah.
That was his disguise that asked for his identity.
When you asked for his ID, that was the disguise.
That was his disguise. He was showing. My friends think he would look like Inspector Clouseau.
He does a bit, doesn't he?
So he had the mask, and all he had was this little gap here, which he had darkened his skin there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when he come in, he did the question, like a medical question about your heart, and so I done all that.
He knew what he was doing.
When he took two from left and right blood samples, then a urine sample. But his mum had asked him, could the night before, she says, can you ask him if he'll do me blood pressure? I says, well, I'll ask him. I don't know if he will, like, you know, I think it is. So she was upstairs, so he done mine, and I says, can you do me partners, you know? Not thinking that he was the son, you know. She says, can you do me partners?
And you still didn't, she didn't recognise.
And she come down, and we're just sitting here from here to here, but he'd done the blood test, and he said, oh, it was high because she was on blood pressure tablets. But I didn't realise she'd taken herself off him because she'd got a terrible rash. When I says, Jenny, I says, you'll have to go back. I says, because you could have a stroke or a heart attack or something like that. You know, it's better to have a rash than have one, you know.
So then he injected you, and
when Jenny went back upstairs, he says, I'll give you a COVID test. And I says, well, I just had one. He says, oh, well, this is a booster because COVID wanes, the injection wanes. So I just turned away when he put the needle. Undescribable.
The pain as soon as he injected you.
So, yeah, like I say, when he put all his stuff and went in the house, Jenny come down, said, oh, he's the same height as, he looked the same height as my son. So I went out the door after him to see if I could unmask him, but he was away.
Were you suspicious when she said that? Did that
straight away, because Ben, the only person I've never, just an ordinary person, never had any problems, have arguments, but not but when he was the only one that medically could have done something like take blood and everything else, and he was the only one I've had an altercation with all the years, So
suddenly you were suspicious. So what had he injected you with?
Well, it was at the time we didn't know. So what had happened was, I went to the doctors, and I think you've seen the picture, the first one, the blisters. But the receptionist says, "Oh, we've got no appointment. I can see a nurse in 2.5." So I had to go back home, because it was only 5 minutes, because we lived in the centre of Newcastle, and come back. And they said, "Oh, come back at 11:45. So when I went upstairs to see the nurse, they thought it was sepsis. She thought, so we got a doctor, and they said, "Oh, we'll send you straight back up." She says, "We'll get an ambulance." I says, "Well, it'd be quick if I just walked up." So I just walked up.
Yeah.
Then went straight through, and I was telling a male nurse, I was telling him the story, and he thought it was a local nurse or something, subcontractor, trying to kill pensioners off or do something. Right, he thought it was a male nurse that actually phoned the police. And when the consultants were looking at my arm, wondering what it was, because it was spreading, the police come and they took photos. And the next thing I knew, I was having an X-ray on my arm. And the next thing I knew, I was in intensive care after they'd operated on my arm.
Wow.
So I had about 3 or 4 operations in that week, So it was like anaesthetic. And I remember the third day, the police come in to interview us and everything else. And the funny thing was, well, this is my sense of humour, I suppose. They said, "Oh, have you got any suspects?" And I said, "Oh, about 500. Because I play golf at the Espresso Hub Golf Club. So, because I've got other brothers that play and nephews, so I'd won quite a few who always get classes. So I said, "Oh, I've got about 500 there. It's a lovely club." And they're going to, I could tell by the expression, but we weren't too amused. And I had to say, "Oh, no, I'm just joking." That's just, Then I says, the only person I can think of is my partner's son, Thomas Kwan. But I says, "You can't go to his house and arrest him." I says, "Because I don't know, he might have been working that day, so I didn't know, That's just, he was the only person that I could think of."
Well, look, they investigated him, arrested, and he's now in prison. 31 years is what he got.
Yeah,
and he attempted to kill you. The irony of all of this is, though, Patrick, is your relationship with Jenny was sort of coming to an end.
Yes, that's the irony, because I'd been a couple of times. I went, because my ex-wife lives with my daughter and everything else, and I used to see the grandkids and that, And then every time I went up there, I just couldn't get it out to ask. I don't know if it was a blockage or so. That was a catalyst.
Yeah.
So poor Jenny, I had to tell her that.
But you're still good friends with Jenny. You're still on good terms.
But Jenny's moved out. She's moved back. She moved in with her daughter, living in Hong Kong.
Her son now, that he tried to do this to you.
At the time, Ben, I felt really against him. But like I say, time's a great healer. And when I was lying in bed, and I just thought it's just wasted time. I've got nothing about him or nothing like that. I don't hate him, but I don't. It's happened, and the justice was done. Albeit I thought he could have had more. I know it's a long time, but the way things are. But I was happy that the justice was carried out, and that's the way it should have been, So,
well, we're very happy that you're here telling us the story now.
Thank you for coming on the show.
I have to say, after my arm, when I got to play, because my thing was to play golf up at Scotland, because I've been doing it for 32 years, and everybody thought I couldn't do it. But we already had a substitute for this, but I managed to push myself and do all the weights for it.
To get the strength.
But the worst thing about the whole situation was after I come back from Scotland was the mental thing.
Yeah, of course.
The post, because I didn't realise I had post-traumatic.
I bet, yeah, of course.
But what had happened was I couldn't walk, my feet went into pain. I lost 2 stone in weight.
Oh, Patrick.
I lost my hair. You wouldn't think so, I know, but it's going back. Then I had delirium, hallucinations when I was 5 days in hospital, trying to wonder what it was and everything else. And that was the worst thing was fatigue. As soon as I got out of bed, I got washed and had breakfast and I had to go back to bed. Yeah. So that the mental aspect, and this is one of the things.
Tougher.
And this is one of the things, because I had to wait quite a while with this. Nothing wrong with that, NHS, but I had to wait for a psychiatric assessment and everything else, just started last week. But,
Well, look,
but talking to you and everything else is
Patrick,
really helpful,
hopefully you will get through that assessment, and I know your family are all rallying around
they've been
you, and you're back to the golf
and
club.
I've got a little my grandson Joseph. He goes to the golf when I go to the driving range to help us and everything else, and it's been absolutely marvellous.
Well, we wish you a Merry Christmas too.
Enjoy
it with your family.
You know,
Thanks
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and we'll see you in the morning.